Hi, I'm Drew with WildMe. I'm a software engineer and the lead developer on Flukebook, our platform for cetacean research. Now, Flukebook is not only a powerful tool for automatic computer matching of photos of whales and dolphins, but it's also a powerful database to store that data, to store sighting records, historical catalogs, if you choose to share these with collaborators in other locations, to analyze this data and export it for analysis using other tools. So today I'll be showing off some of those search and analysis functions on Flukebook, and hopefully when you're done with this video, you'll be able to find all your data and do whatever you want with it. So as you can see, here I am on flukebook.org, our homepage, and I'm logged in, which is always important. Now, this bar here is worth a quick mention. If you just want to laser into one single piece of data, say you know an individual's name, you can type that name in here, and it's really helpful. It'll show you the records that use that, and I just found a marked individuals page very quickly by using this top bar. So try this top bar if you like to find maybe some quick shortcuts to single records. But for searching through and finding large amounts of records that meet certain criteria, you'll be using our search function here. So the first thing you'll need to ask yourself when you're looking for a large amount of data on Flukebook is, which of these search tools do I use? The search tools are based on our fundamental objects on Flukebook. We have encounters, individuals, and sightings. I'll leave the survey search for another video. But these three are most important: sightings, individuals, encounters. Now, keeping in mind what these objects are, an individual is an individual animal. Right now we're on an individual page for Saddle, all of Saddle's different sightings and photos we've taken of them. A sighting is a sighting of a group of animals at a single place and time. So you'll record things like the group size, the group behavior, the species we observed, and so on. An encounter now is the most fundamental data object on Flukebook. An encounter is a sighting of a single animal at a single place and time. So it's the photos you took of that animal, the measurements you took, the observations you recorded. And again, the question now is, which search do I want to use? I'll show you all a sighting search at first. Here I am now on the sighting search page, and all of our searches look pretty similar. They start with a map where you can define a geographic area, and I'll show you how that's done. First, I'll zoom in a little bit. Now let's say I'm kind of looking at the Arabian Sea. For now, I'll exclude the Red Sea just for fun and say we got most of the Gulf of Aden over here. Let's include Sri Lanka and a bit of East India, the Bay of Bengal. That's my region I've defined, and you can see it filled out the latitude and longitudes here. That's just good luck. I just happened to click exactly where the 90th longitude pixel was. But you could manually enter these if you'd rather, and then draw on the map. And as you scroll down, you see different search options. We can basically filter on almost all of the fields that we record on Flukebook, from date, of course location, which we had above. And for the sake of this search, maybe I could add some group behaviors or group composition. Keep in mind all these search options stack, so a record has to meet every criteria you've entered in order to get those results. Now I could filter based on more of these, and that would certainly work, but I'm just going to start with that one geographic filter for now, because that way we'll get a big search results table, and I can show you some more of those features. So here we are on the results table, and this is a big table. There's 2,467 sightings that were in that rectangle I drew on the map. As you scroll down, you can see some summary information. For example, there were 21,000 about total sightings in the database, and we got 2,500. And here are all the records. We have one row for each sighting that match the criteria I entered. So it's a huge table again. We have 2,500 records here. But there's a number of different ways we can filter through this table. You can sort on any of these columns by clicking them. Sort by number of individuals. I think it's really cool. Here's a group of 3,000 common dolphins that was seen in 2001. So you click that record, you get to the sightings page. You can see any data that was recorded here. On the encounters table, you could click over, get to the linked encounter, because all the data objects on Flukebook are linked to each other in a relational way. And here you can see the encounter level information that was recorded. Going back to our sightings table, maybe sorting on a couple different ones of these columns, we can get a better taste for the diversity of data that is recorded on Flukebook. We have a lot of different cetacean species here. Dolphins and whales both. All right, now I'll show an encounter search. It works pretty similarly, but what I'll do right now is a very important thing to know how to do on Flukebook, which is find all of my data. Scrolling down to the bottom of the page, you can see there's a lot more filters for encounters. Encounters are really the fundamental data object on Flukebook. They have a lot of data that might be stored on them, so that means a lot of search options. But when you go all the way to the bottom of the page, under metadata, you can see which user that data is assigned to. Now, as a user, you'll always own your data on Flukebook. You can control who will see it, who can export it, and so on. And here, I can search by all the data that a single user owns. So since I'm logged in as Drew, which is myself, I'm an admin of Flukebook, I will be able to see these people's data. But for normal researcher accounts, all these searches will be filtered by data permissions and sharing agreements. So I've selected ESO, that's the Environment Society of Oman. To find all of your own data on Flukebook, you would select your own username. And here we are on the results page. Sometimes it takes a second or two for Flukebook to filter through all currently 82,000 and counting encounters we have. Anyway, here is the encounter search results table. These are all the encounters that are owned by ESO in this region. You can scroll through and look at this table a bit more, which you should do in your own time. And another thing you should explore are these different tabs on the encounter search results. There's maps, there's a calendar, the analysis tab has some cool tools there, some charts that are automatically generated. But in the interest of keeping this video short and digestible, I'll go right to the export. So for every search you do on Flukebook, be it encounter, individual, or sighting, you'll have this export tab, and generally there will be one row of export, be it Excel or CSV, for each object that was returned by your search. So if it's an individual search, you'll have one row per individual. This is an encounter search, and we'll see one row per encounter. Now there's, as you can see, a handful of different options to pick from. For example, you could get a GIS shape file showing where all these encounters were. And some of these exports were custom made for certain groups that wanted custom exports. But the most important export is this top one here, called the encounter metadata export. It is the export of all of your data on Flukebook, essentially. It's going to have one row per encounter and lots of columns. I'll click so we can get started. Now, since this export is so in-depth, it does actually take like 10 seconds pretty often. So you can see it's ticking up here, it's trying, it's collating this whole export, and it's making sure I have permission to view every single record, which is very important because, as you'll see in a second here, oh, that's a different export, that's just my spreadsheet file, program. Such a big sheet, it takes my computer a couple seconds to open it. Again though, it's basically the complete data that ESO owns on Flukebook. Again, I only have permission as an admin, which is just a very important thing to keep in mind because the data is so complete here. It is just all of your data. But what that means is that for your data that's on Flukebook, you can see here we have a ton of columns. Ignore this silly message about fonts. A ton of columns because it's every data field you might record, all the way down to CH. And we have one row for each encounter. Every column where it does have a field stored on Flukebook, that column will be filled out on this Excel file. And using this export, it means that you're never limited to the analytical tools that are on Flukebook. Any sort of analysis you want to do of your data or data that others have shared with you on Flukebook, you can do by finding that with the encounter search and then doing this complete export. Then you can do whatever analysis you would like externally, be it in R, Excel, Access, whichever tools you're comfortable with. But that way you can get your data outside of Flukebook and deal with it in your own way. So I've shown how you can perform a search, how you can make sense of the search results table, and then how you can export that for analysis elsewhere. If you have any questions and you're a Flukebook user, never hesitate to reach out to me, Drew. It's our pleasure helping you all do such incredible research, and anything we can do to help make it easier makes us happy. Thanks a lot, and happy Flukebooking.